Hi all. This is probably the most impromptu session that we've ever done, and we've got a founder on the call with us this morning, Nat, and we've also got Derek from Fusion 42 and Sutin. And I think probably a good idea if we just quickly do an intro of who everyone is. So we'll start with you, Nat. Who are you? What do you do?
So I am Nathalie. I am by profession a creative director, and I create brand experiences as that's what I'm supposed to be paid money for. But then, of course, I have my passion project, which hopefully will become my it'll become my career, which is we are in the process of wanting to remap and reanimate the world with past and present childhood memories, and then create the possibility of creating future memories through animating the city through beautiful touch points that people can interact with. So possibly a new form of entertainment. That is it. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible because otherwise I could go on for hours. So apologies if I do.
And Sutin?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sutin Yang. I head up scale-up programs at Version Startup. I've actually spent last 4 years running accelerator programs at Version before it's Social Tech Trust. But before that, I did also do a stint as an entrepreneur, launching a property crowdfunding platform. And before that, I had another career of over a decade working at JP Morgan and investments.
Excellent. And Derek?
Hi, y'all. I'm Derek. I started my career in investment banking many years ago. I was a prop trader at a bank called Salomon Brothers. Yeah. I don't know, actually. Now I'm in venture capital. I'm not sure which one. Went off and started my own hedge fund, and through that journey, building tech, and raising investments, started investing in early stage startups after the 08, 09, coming into 12, I believe it was. I sold the public market side of the hedge fund and kept all the private market side, and started helping founders on their journey, whether that was raising capital or becoming investment ready. And in 2019, 2020, started building a platform called N2, which matches startups and investors based on their investment theses, just to fast track that initial connection point and make it relevant. Since then, I've started a community called Fusion 42, where we have built a vertical funnel for startup founders so they can reach out at any point on that journey to experts that live within it. We all get a little bit frustrated, start procrastinating or just feel a bit sad sometimes. And what we've tried to create is somewhere where there's an expert signal, there's someone like a Chris that will be there and can answer questions very quickly, very candidly, and help you get along that journey. We don't always need to go along the horizontal journey of having, experts teach us. Sometimes we just need touch points and jump in there. And that's essentially where we're at in our journey.
Kat, do you want to hop in? No, Kat's quiet. Manish, don't intro yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me on today. I've only got until 9:45, so I'll keep it really brief for myself. Let others speak. Hi, my name is Manny. I'm CEO co-founder of Jiva. I have a coloured experience, I guess, in various different industries: finance, academic, sort of healthcare, life sciences, all centered around kind of AI and machine learning for the last 23 odd years. I don't know what else I could say. My claim to fame: I joined Lehman Brothers when it was at the peak share price, and the day after the share price started falling.
Market indicator.
Yeah. What else? I advise government on regulation of AI in healthcare and that kind of thing. That's basically it.
So we have a bit of a brains trust on this morning, then, apart from me. So let's start with you then, Nat. Natalie, in terms of your platform, it's obviously going to be quite generally, I'm guessing, consumer focused, but what's the challenge you've got around being able to articulate or formulate your go-to-market plans? I know you're obviously going to be strong on brand, but what's the challenge for you in terms of the go-to-market?
Well, I guess the obvious challenge is always money, right? But let's put that to one side. And I think the biggest challenge is going to see if people really do play with this quality. So one of the remits within this is that actually it's come from also an observation that loneliness is an enormous issue. And we are wanting to open a door, at least, to people being able to resolve loneliness through refinding their own communities and refinding connection. So it's really the biggest challenge that we've got is getting people to, first of all, want to interact with what we're doing. Manish, what we're doing is, because obviously you joined a little later, but the concept is basically remapping and reanimating our cities in particular. And obviously I'll be kind of like, obviously it's global, darling, but just kind of how we can remap and reanimate our cities through past and present childhood memories. And it came from a very lovely bike ride that I had during the pandemic with my eldest son, where we kind of like spoke about, we live in London, where we cycled through London. And I turned around to him as we crossed Waterloo Bridge and said to him, "Oh, Emerson, this is where I had my first kiss." Obviously, he was disgusted. But actually, what was really lovely about it was that actually we lived in New York for quite a while. And so Emerson's formative years were in New York, but he remembered a bit about London. And actually, he started to tell his stories as well. And it was quite interesting on how he created his own identity of London through his own stories, which was fascinating in its own right. But then also felt as though he belonged. So it's kind of like a quality of wanting people to belong. Anyway, so the problems, back to, I digress, apologies, but I realised Manish didn't know what world we were coming from. The biggest problem is making sure, or trying to create something that is super, super easy to use because it has a very instant quality to it. And obviously that ease, and also that how we keep this as being one of the safest environments is, I think, are two of our biggest issues that we have. As I say, issues, they're the problems that we're trying to solve, or at least do them as well as we possibly can. And as far as you mentioned that it was, a kind of like B2C, but actually I believe there's huge opportunities with B2B as well. So it could be that we then end up working with urban planners, brands, cultural institutions, all of those kind of environments that mean that actually urban planners can take a lot of the knowledge that comes out of it, of how people create memories within cities, and actually design cities that are relevant to people rather than for cars, which would be lovely. And quite, part of the zeitgeist really at the moment. So yeah, those are our two main issues, is kind of, making it super, super easy to use. Yeah, kind of, how are people going to use it? That's the bit that's really entertaining.
Can I just jump in and ask one question, which I haven't quite got? At the end of this, what's the output for the user? What am I getting? I go in there, I create. Don't worry about the how, but I create my memory, wherever, Tower Bridge. What do I get? What am I getting here?
No, very good question. And one I hope I can answer properly. So behind me, you can see adamant. God bless him. There's only a few of us now that remember him. So what I'm hoping is that it's actually going to create new connections. So, kind of social media has got a bad name. And I kind of think it's because social media is not being used in the right way. And actually, if we go back to the roots of social media, it was about creating really beautiful connections with people. And I think what I want for the user to get out of this is that they kind of they find their community again. They find the stuff that they used to have, and they can share it with people as well. So, kind of, if I went to see a gig at, when I was 13 years of age to go to see Adamant, then somebody else puts up their memory of going to see Adamant. There is an opportunity that we have some kind of connection at that point. So it's about finding new connections rather than the connections that social media have created, which are much more, look at me, look at how lovely my skin is, look at kind of like my yacht, look at and it's not actually creating any connection. What it's doing is it's distancing people from each other. So if you don't have all of those things, you feel as though you're a loser, which I think is just kind of heartbreaking, right? I can see it with my own kids, who kind of a 13-year-old boy who's kind of like concerned about his jawline. It's like, why is a 13-year-old kid worried about that? Actually, what a 13-year-old kid should be talking about is, where they've played football, where they kind of like hit, a mega goal and all of those sorts of things. So it's about the hope is that people will find new connections and will feel as though they're part of community, and a happy community makes a happy city. So that's. I hope that answers the question, Derek. I've probably digressed 100 times.
Yeah, I mean, my first thoughts, it's for probably, I feel it's more for someone my age who's maybe, left the UK many years ago, but, have these memories. I'm trying to get a sense. It's obviously an incredibly large ask to build any sort of social platform. And I think, at the beginning of any journey, it's about really niching down, identifying who that customer is. And my first thought, and I'm just brainstorming here, but my first thought that jumps to mind is I have this gang of old friends that I've lost communication with, but I know it's their birthday, and what do? I send them a WhatsApp. What would be really cool if I could go, Anthony, Trev, it's your birthday. Remember when we went to see the Smiths together and we had to walk from the middle of Colchester out to Essex University from the bloody train station? And I could create something around that, an animated memory of the 3 or the 4 or the 5 of us. And I think that sort of gifting and that interaction could maybe start this journey to go somewhere greater. But I think you've got a big idea. You've got some idea about the medium that will be used, but the connection point is what's difficult here. We can't go from, as any startup founder, we can have this great vision. I'm going to Mars. Can you go and buy a rocket and actually get it out of the atmosphere without it blowing up? Can we do that first? And I think that's what you've got to come back to a little bit. How does that medium work? What's the attraction of that? Being a creative designer, I also think that's probably your strength in being able to build that medium for people to show them how attractive it is. And then sort of that GTM thing, it would be getting out there. And GTM's got this weird place in a founder's journey, and that is it became a segment of the overall journey. And I'm constantly fighting with founders and saying, no, the minute you wake up on the day and say, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to build something, is the day you start GTM. You are going to market. You're going to market with ideas, with customers to validate them, to see how it's going to work, all the way through to actually, how the hell am I going to get people to pay for this? It's another set. 80% of your business, 90%, I could even say 99%, is going to market and getting customers. The other is all the periphery around the sides, because that's what a core of a business is, right? Getting something in one side, doing some fluffy stuff with it, shoving it out the other side, and hopefully one is worth more than the other, and you make a profit, which is conceptually what a business is. So I'm all for this, I'm very much for it. I know, in Manny's life, where he's building hard tech, it's a different story. There's a lot of different moving parts to that. But for most sort of consumer products, It's very much, you just need to be in the market day one, speaking, validating, pushing stuff out and building that. You want people to build community around what you're building. I think the proof point is you have to build community around what you're building to show people that you can build community around what you're building.
No, it's a very good point. That's a very good point. We did one of the things that I did do was a very kind of quick off the mark thing was and I know this is going to sound really daft, but it was a lovely thing to do. Was we printed lots of stickers with a QR code on them, and I went around London with my kids and actually some friends. Some of them were absolutely hysterical, and we started to put them around London. And it's why we set up an Instagram page to see if people would then, the QR code would take you then straight to our Instagram page, and it was to start seeing. So we did that over, I think it was a 3-month period, just to observe what was happening and to see if people would kind of like, first of all, point their phone at this QR code and see if they would then follow us. And if people would actually wish to put content up as well. I put lots of content up to see what sort of content was working and not working in order for us to kind of like start really thinking about what we'd be putting. So that was quite interesting that we did that little experiment. So I kind of tend to do, and it's probably because I'm wired up in a certain way, but I like to do lots of tiny little experiments to then start building that bigger picture. I hear exactly what you're saying, Derek, and I'm a terrible one for just thinking about bigger picture and that's it. But I have kind of like taught myself to kind of be much more about these smaller experiments to see what is actually happening and what is working and what isn't working, what kind of like just doesn't do anything. So I agree with you entirely, and it's my absolute kind of like focus at the moment.
Yeah. So
Nathalie, what happened then with that experiment? How many people pointed their phones at it?
So it was really, really lovely. We got, over that 3-month period, we ended up with something like 250 followers, which I know as far as kind of, an Instagram account isn't much, but we only did it for a certain amount of time. So it's kind of like, it did that. We got people who sent through content as well that we were able to put up. It kind of taught us that there's something there. There's also another quality of it, which I was explaining to Chris earlier on, where it was validating the idea as much as possible. But I was a vaccinator during the pandemic, and which was an absolute privilege to do, and met people. And during that time, one of the things that we had to do was to make people feel very calm when they'd come into your pod. And as I vaccinated people, I'd tell them the story of childhood. That's the name of the concept. I have to admit, it was very, very touching. I vaccinated about 100 to 150 people a day for 6 months, and got extraordinary feedback just from that romantic quality of explaining an idea and people loving the idea. So there's been lots of little experiments that I've done on validating the idea. Those are the two main ones.
That's quite top of the funnel to get those in. And at the moment, the product's not out there in live. So you want to continue doing that. I mean, it's absolutely everything, that top of the funnel, but now start getting into the sort of middle of the funnel and understanding what that retention cycle looks like. If there is no product, it's very hard to start charging, so you can't get to the bottom of the funnel. But now I feel you need to build a flywheel. This is everything. When you launch, hopefully you get some conversion, and it's by building that you will get conversion, and you will have learned everything, and it will guide you through that product build, rather than we've built something. Now, that's what I was saying about it being a stage in your life where you have to go to market. No, it's building it all the way along that journey. And you should be, it's very creative what you said. The stickers are a great idea. I work with a charity. We did that. I work with a founder who's written an AI poetry app. It's very big in the Middle East. It does a lot of stuff. It's not just like your words, it does the inclination, it does a whole bunch of other things. And I went for a run recently and wore his t-shirt with a QR code. I ran through a very busy place here, and he got a load of people on that. So, you know, there are many experiments, and you should just continue with these experiments. And it might also benefit the MVP build, because it will streamline it to a large degree as you start understanding those user wants, needs as well. It often makes you know, sometimes that procrastination that we live when we're building is because the engineer or the product manager says, oh, what should we do here? And we're like, let me procrastinate for a week, because I actually don't bloody know what the customer wants to do. So I'm kind of guessing because I haven't had those interactions. I don't know. And then what we do is we just have a reference point of me. And intrinsically, I'm bloody wrong. So what good am I? But if I had 100 customers, 100 people I could reach out to, all of a sudden I would get some maybe real validation. At least it wouldn't be the echo chamber of my own head. So, and I think, you know, for what you're doing, that consumer facing, and it is quite romantic. And that's what I felt. That was my initial feeling when you were saying about it, with my lost connections, my, you know, distant friends and family being in a different jurisdiction now. And I think that should be the continual thing, spending time on what those experiments look like and putting them into action. And as you said, you know, these don't have to be huge experiments, right? They can be lots. Niche down on the ones that work. Remember the ones that didn't. That's another very important thing. The ones that didn't work because it was a moment in time. It's not because they will never work. So all of these things are incredibly valuable. It didn't work. Go back, you know, let's speak Manny language, get the data and let's see. And we can go back to it, and we will, you know, through another experiment go, oh, now I understand the link. That experiment didn't work because we didn't have this. Now we've put it in place. Let's run that one again. And just this continual, it's a shit job. I don't want to make it sound romantic or great. It's a shit job, but we have to continually go through it. It's just a flywheel of experimenting and building that initial traction. You talk about raising money, you know, traction, customer numbers, getting them to pay. You know, that's the best traction anybody can get. Absolutely. Not
Nathalie,
fantastic features.
Can I just take you back a little bit? Like, what specifically are you building, or is your MVP doing?
So what we're building, first of all, is a digital dot. So like a sticker again, just and seeing whether that sticker can be. Now I know there's already existing stuff that can help us do that in any case, but we are building a sticker that means you can place that sticker into the place, because it's always to do with place as well. So it's necessary that it is linked to a particular place. So that's our first job with the sticker, is kind of like putting with the MVP, is creating this sticker that can have a story associated with it, and that it is placed in a place, if that makes sense.
And what do people do with this sticker? Like, they scan the QR code and they tell their story to it? Like, what is
Those are the elements that we're trying to suss out at the moment. So actually, how is this going to be easy to use? So I can place, so the idea at the moment is, and I'll keep it as simple as possible, but Kevin, my kind of like dude, is building this sticker, this ability to be able to place that sticker, and that the individual is the one who places the sticker, and the individual leaves their story relative to that sticker. And what we're just playing with at the moment is if it's text, or whether it's voice, or whether it's an image, or kind of all of these things, it could well be. So that's just what we're looking at with the MVP at the moment.
Like a geocache memory.
Absolutely. So geocache has been a huge inspiration with regards to kind of how they do it. So there's lots of, through the research that we've done, there are lots of offers that are exactly this. The difference is that this has a very different filter, the filter being that they are childhood memories. And that is it. I mean, geocache, absolutely, Chris, has been something that we've done ourselves, and something that has been a huge inspiration.
I've been a geocache.
who's the target audience? Like, who would access these memories?
Yeah. Derek is absolutely right. I'm only going to presume your age, Derek. But actually, if I'm honest, and I could be, I could be wrong, but actually, my goal at the moment is Gen Z. There is we can see that there are huge trends of Gen Z using nostalgia as a way of belonging and recreating their identities and themselves. So that would be our main goal. The other goal would be things like people like new mums who absolutely love to kind of like talk about, their first day at school, first day at nursery, first day at and then families sharing that information with each other. But Gen Z is the main. Hello, Gen Z is the main audience at the moment.
So basically, for example, I guess some of these memories are probably private, right? Like you don't want anybody just accessing it. So it would be family members and friends.
Yeah, you can choose whether, a bit like Instagram, you can choose whether it's, public or whether you only share your content with those that you love and trust.
Got it.
I think you're almost missing a trick. I've moved about a lot. I shouldn't have had a house. I should have had something with wheels on to move around. I've moved around in my life. And therefore, as a result, all that time I spent in Facebook, I haven't got time for it anymore. But when I do delve back into it, my feed comes back with all of these pages with, let's say, Leek or Rhondda or Alsager or Wiltshire, all these different places I've lived in that come flooding back. And people are always sharing these nostalgic stories in those pages. And they're normally around my age bracket. I think we're often the most nostalgic of the lot. If you look at people as sort of 35 to 55, I think there's a huge bulk of those that like, I think just because of the nature of the world and how it's changed and how we move around, I think we look back a lot and reflect on the different places we've lived in, friends we've had, places we've gone to. That's why things like Friends Reunited was such a success early on, and Facebook was a success early on, was it allowed people to reconnect. And I think what you have is such an emotive product, and I think it falls back almost to the universal truth of all GTM, which is that it's got to be founder led. And I think you have enough of a tribe and probably a network around you and an emotive enough product to really flesh out what those key demographics are, to test that key assumption. Because I think there's no denying that it would have ubiquitous appeal. But going back to Derek's point of niching down, utilizing your own family, your own networks to say, look, download this and use this, play with it, and then look at who has played with it, who has used it.
Yeah.
And based on age, sex, location, the old ASL, and then just you'll be able to then look at, right, this, you have an opportunity almost to start to work out who that early ICP is, which gives you your GTM.
I was also thinking,
I think we've obviously talked out to that, but I think that to me nails it.
Just one thing on the sort of niching down though. I was thinking at two levels, niching down onto that person, but also niching down onto a segment directly in the market. So maybe that would be, just because of my example, I'm just going to say concert experiences. Because what that enables you to do as well is to leverage on other communities out there. So everybody that follows music, everybody that's on Instagram following, I don't know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Smiths, the Police, whoever, it gives you that extra thing. So you have the people and now you have the interest. Bring those together. You can make partnerships and leverage on something really solid because you have both sides of the equation. So that's what I'm kind of really honing down onto that.
Go
I
on.
think based on what Derek said and what you just said, Natalie, the other thing that comes to mind is also like, when do people want to access these memories? Like, is it that could be a good trigger point for you, like the sell point when people think about these types of things. So is it like a anniversary, a birthday, a reunion? This could be a great kind of reunion thing, right? If schools have reunions, and then like, do they want to start sticking these memories around the school? So maybe some of these can help you narrow down a bit more your target audience and kind of the use cases, and who you could work with.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really good point. So I was asked so I come from a creative background, and I am very good buddies with a head of art in a local school. And I was invited to go in to do a project with them, and I did childhood with them. And it was a group of young women, 17 to 18 years of age. And we did the project together. Just very kind of like simple way. So we were sticking up stickers relative to the stories that they wanted to tell. And some of the feedback that came back from that. So it's very difficult to pinpoint the audience, because as you said, Chris, you know, it could, like, I come from that marketing background, so I've always been like, who's your audience? And I do think I've come up with the most democratic idea ever, where I'm struggling to kind of really be very honest on who the audience is, because I think it's anyone and everyone, really. But one thing that was really beautiful about the 18-year-old girls, they're highly intelligent women as well, you know, they're kind of like in an extraordinary school. They loved the realness of it as well. So, which was kind of a really fascinating insight into what this can offer people, which was, you know, we've all had our fringes cut by our mums, and you know, kind of all of these sorts of things, which means that we're not that kind of like social media beauty anymore. So yeah, it's kind of, Sutin, I hope I answered your question. I kind of feel as I've gone all over the place again. There's so many thoughts all the time. It's trying to pin them down.
So I guess the other thing, my point there also is, to be a business, you need to make money. So what I want you also to kind of focus a little bit on is, what is the product market fit that will get you to people paying, right? Like, what is the need that they're trying to fulfill, or what point does your product actually become useful that they're willing to pay money for it? That's the other thing. So some of these experiments, you need to also focus them on, like, you know, getting to money.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It seems to be the dirty word every time, doesn't it? Or it does, at least for a creative. Yeah, I mean, we have thoughts, but I haven't experimented with any of those thoughts, which are kind of like, is it a membership, or do we go down the route of conscientious advertising? So we have a filter of who can advertise on this thing, but obviously we need to have an audience to be able to advertise. So yes, you bring up a very good point, Sutin, and one that I am hopefully answering with kind of like some of the thoughts that we've had. And also that there is also going to be the opportunity for a B2B offer as well, which would be the way of kind of bringing in further cash. Yeah, those are our thoughts so far.
I mean, Facebook, I don't
Haven't
think,
got any money in, by the way. No money's come in yet.
I mean, Facebook didn't make any revenue for years, say with Google when it first launched. They had a bit of a different environment to F about and find out and F about in. So they only hit upon the advertising revenue thing once they had so many eyeballs. They were lucky it went viral, because if it hadn't have gone viral, it would have been dead duck. And you look at the way Friends Reunited went, and that's for precisely that reason. It didn't monetize in the right way. So I think that's where that user research, again, as you start to warm up to that demographic, that's where you start to work that out. I mean, you look at something like Mumsnet, a forum, for instance, and again, it's only done stuff through its virality, and it became a publisher in essence, from an affiliate sense. So you can build symbiotic relationships with some of those affiliates to build out that early audience as well, I think is one of the key takeaways from that. We've got about 5 minutes left as well. Does that help in terms of sharpen it a little bit? Does that help with
This is amazing. This is amazing. You're all so brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Shishang and Derek have obviously been there and done it as well. So I don't know whether you got any other points to add on that one, either of you?
No.
Apart from my poor pronunciation of your name.
I think there's certain key elements here. You refer back to Facebook and those old lessons in time, and they're obviously valid to a certain point. But things in this market have changed absolutely enormously, and if there is an ambition to raise money from investors and from angels, I think it's very, very clear that that route to monetization has to be very well displayed. There needs to be some proof points. Not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily at the pre-seed getting from angels have to be dollars in the bank, but there has to be a clear plan and a clear tribe of people, at least, that display that. Having sort of 100,000 people and now, oh shit, we're going to do some advertising. That's kind of okay if you've got 100,000 people, but do you know how bloody hard it is to get 100,000 people? It's I think it's easier just convince 5 people to give you $5. I think that's actually easier than trying to, so it's, and I think the way it is, it's sort of back to business as usual to a large degree, which I prefer. I've been out of the market investing wise for 2 or 3 years because I just didn't get it. Maybe I'm just from financial markets. So I was just like, I do numbers and there aren't any. So I'm really struggling with this. And now we're back to numbers, which kind of makes it way easier. And I kind of prefer I like black and white stuff. Makes my life much easier. But I would suggest on that, building that front end as much as possible. And you're absolutely right. These things do sometimes, with enough work at the back end and the beginning of that journey, these things do become apparent as well, more apparent. The more work you put in now and start building and communicating, the more apparent a lot of these can come. They're sort of guesswork. You're very early in that journey. So it's like, and we could do advertising and we could do that, and maybe we'll do this and maybe we'll do that. You know what? Maybe you'll do something that nobody else has ever done. Maybe. Yeah. Be aware of them all. Be aware of what's out there. Be aware of those possibilities. But without customers, there is zero anyway of making that plan. It's, just using an analogy from the VC world. What's your exit strategy? What the exit strategy? I don't know. What's my starting strategy? Should we go there? And at the beginning of that journey, there are only 3 exit strategies. Maybe I'll fail one that you don't want to hear. Maybe I'll do a merger or an acquisition, or maybe I'll IPO. There's not a lot else to say, is there? It's a pretty, they do say there are no stupid questions, but I would put my hand up and say that's a pretty stupid one. At the beginning of a journey for an entrepreneur. So yes, just concentrate on that front end. Have the vision and everything all lined up. Be open to it. Be greedy. Be a learner. But really, I think those early signals, customers, talking to them, being in the market with them, getting punched in the face from time to time is very healthy. For that learning journey, you'll have to go and sit in a dark room occasionally. And
you end up with a face like mine or Derek's when that happens.
Exactly.
Sutin, anything else you'd like to add in terms of universal truths around go-to-market?
Yeah. So I'd agree with Derek in terms of I think you need to do a lot more customer development conversations. So just having conversations, even one-to-one with your customers, and understanding okay, what does this nostalgia, right? What would they use it for? What can they see? You don't have all the answers, you're developing it. So, but your customers, if there's something that they find interesting, especially people maybe following you or attending any of your workshops or programs, right? Why have they come? What do they see the use for it? So maybe they can give you some of these answers, right? What is it that triggers that response from them that makes them want to use it? So you don't have the answers, but you need to talk to your customers to see what they see is, what would they pay for it, or where would they want to use this in their daily lives, that kind of thing. So I think there is more customer development conversations you could be having just in one-to-one interviews and conversations even.
Brilliant. I love
Thank
that.
you.
And I think, yeah, there's a couple of universal truths in there that apply to any startup, and it's so overlooked by a lot of startups, is building what you think people want. I think so that whole piece of talk to those people, you may find out that you're talking to completely the wrong people. You'll get to who are the ones that will pay for it over the ones that will use it. And the other universal truth there is that it's got to be founder led in those early stages. So when you're building out that go to market side, filling it with stuff like, I'm going to do it via search, socials, and AN other. Essentially, in those early stages, the only things you should be looking at are founder led and affiliate led. Who has my audience? I'm going to go to them, and they can bring me their audience to my product, and I can send people back to them. And the other route is obviously within your own networks, because we've got such broad demographics within our own families and friends that we can actually cause that network effect to bring that about, either through our domain experience or just through lived experience of our lives with our families. I'm going to have to draw to a close. This was quite cool, I think, for an impromptu thing where everybody hopped on. I'm sorry, Carmela and Kathy, you didn't get a chance to hop on and share your own experiences. But since this was so fun, I think I might do another one on GTM. And we'll record this and we'll just share it with the Venturing Women. Obviously, share it with Fusion 42 as well, Derek, and Diversity X as well. So it's all underrepresented founders that will see it. So, yeah, awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I can't believe how lucky I am to have kind of been able to have such a focused moment. It's brilliant. Thank you.
And I shall
Any
share
questions?
the recording later.
Yeah, happy to answer. Love.